permanent position count where we are not asking for funding, understanding certainly that funding is a challenge, the whole overall budget challenge this year. But I also wanted to just give an overview of what the state office does, because certainly our trend is we want to give resources to the schools as much as possible. We want to give resources to complex areas as much as possible. But there is a value that is given from state office teacher induction and mentoring. That is that to have an effective, high-quality mentoring program, it's more than just saying in each school an experienced teacher is paired with a beginning teacher. It is making sure that the teachers who are providing the mentoring are trained to be effective mentors. And that is something, the training for that is delivered through this state group, both with our state level I&M teachers, but also through the contracts and partnerships with the new teacher center. The state group convenes PLCs.
I don't want to cut you short, but I'm going to. And the reason is we only have so much time, and I want to make sure we have some questions because we want to go into executive session. 11 o'clock is our finance. I think if you want to, hit some bullet points, I'll give you a couple more minutes, but we got to get into some questions.
Okay, on teacher induction and mentoring, my final point is that we do have several of our teachers there actually located at the complex areas. We would continue to do that. Leadership Institute, you can see this is key for the reasons that I said, teacher career paths, shared leadership. You have here a list of number of the programs that Leadership Institute is currently handling and leading. I really want to emphasize the support for the grower-owned initiatives. These are really important. We find that, so let me just briefly make sure everybody understands, alternative certification programs. These are non-traditional programs where when the teachers come to us, they don't already have their teachers, they're completed their state teacher program. An example of an alt-cert program is Teach for America. When those teachers come to us, they have bachelor's degrees at a minimum. More than half of our new teachers come to us with more than a bachelor's, but they don't yet have that teacher training program. That's what Teach for America gives them. There are other alt-cert programs already in existence. We're working with UH and others to help grow additional alt-cert programs, but we're finding out, with no surprise, it's all about the money. So we already have a special ed SPED stipend program that's been administered since 1998. It's been very successful. We, the department, have funding that came from the Felix program. We give that to UH under an MOA. That's given to students as stipends to go into SPED, and then they have a commitment to come to the DOE for a minimum of 3 years, or there's a repayment. We are in the process of doing an MOA with UH West Oahu, also for that SPED support. And thanks to the support and leadership of Senator Kidani, we are expecting a bill or bills in the legislature this session that would propose an appropriation for a similar program for non-SPED teachers. We will certainly support that initiative very much and ask that anybody and everybody do the same. We are all looking, and certainly everybody has been looking at educational assistance, EAs, as a potential pool for, again, the grow your own, eventually becoming teachers. We've had sort of mixed success with that in the past. The key is we need to make sure there's money for those EAs to go to school. They're not going to just be able to go for an opportunity. That is the high-level overview of some of the important initiatives that we're really looking toward and for which we really need everybody's support. That's the end of my prepared presentation.
Thank you. I agree with everything that you said. But I think the major problem we have is a lack of bodies. And everything that we're doing here is not going to give us, I think, the amount of bodies that we would like. So my question is really simple. And the reason why I'm asking this is because I attended this dinner on behalf of the board, representing the board, with Jeonji Token Education, which is a group from Korea. And what was interesting was the governor, who is the highest person in charge, is elected by the population. But they have 4,000 schools, they have 1 million students, 1.5 million students, they have 106 teachers. So in my discussions with him, I asked him, you got a lot of teachers? Huh? He said, yeah. He said, well, Hawaii needs a lot of teachers. What do you think we can work something out? And he looked at me and he said, are you kidding? And I said, no, I'm trying. So my question is, can we recruit outside of the USA if they meet qualifications, or we can set something up. Because Hawaii is Hawaii. We are multicultural. We've never maybe, I know at some time we look for some sort of Indonesia, but I'm saying maybe we should start looking in that area. I don't know, but these are the type of things I would like to propose. Thank you.
It's an idea. I would also say, however, that we cannot, and we do not, and we cannot do any sort of immigration sponsorship. So we're happy to look at any applicant who has authority to work in the United States. That's the key part. And then we would have the same requirements for them in terms of the teacher licensing. We had received an inquiry, I think in connection with one of the trips that my staff went on, as well as others, to, I can't remember if it was one from Japan or I think Taiwan, and there was an interest expressed in some sort of exchange, but the condition was that the department sponsor a visa. And again, we are not permitted to do that, but we cannot.
So the understanding I had was they were looking for relationships so that their teachers could come over and learn a little more about Western culture and things like that. So I'm just thinking, why don't we look at these things and then look at the obstacles that are facing them and see if there's any practicality. That's all. Because we need bodies. Thank you.
We had a question about the mentoring. Slide 6, where it says mentoring training, it says new teacher center. So is the department still contracting the new teacher center to run the mentoring program?
Not to run the mentoring program. They started out with a much more active role, and each year the contract is less and less, and we use them less and less because we're trying to internalize that expertise.
Okay. My understanding was the new teacher center was going to come in for 2 years, and then they were going to, then we would be able to sustain the program on our own.
I don't know if that was the original plan on the timing. I know that we have budgeted for them to have a significantly less role next year. We have to continue licensing their materials as opposed to actually, we're relying on them less and less. So it's been a train the trainers concept, and that's part of what this state office group is doing. And that's part of our concern is if we don't have the state office bodies, how do we maintain the same level of expertise and training, because our pool of mentors is constantly changing.
Thank you for that. And my other comment, and maybe more a comment than a question, would you just share in terms of the initiatives, the recruitment initiatives, the teacher induction mentoring, the Leadership Institute? I was hoping to actually see that in the strategic plan in Goal 2. And so I'm not sure if this kind of specific strategies that we're looking at. Well, when you talk about we need to provide the conditions for leadership, that whether or not that should be part of our department strategic plan and how are we going to support, especially in Goal 2, we talk about supporting teachers and supporting leaders. So I'm just saying I appreciate seeing this here, but I wish it was part of what we talked about with the strategic plan.
Barbara, I guess to leverage off of Board Member Min's question about teacher shortage, I'm struggling to understand if our metric on the strategic plan indicates that we've got 96% of the teacher positions filled, and the target is to get to 98. I'm looking at a 4% vacancy factor now, which would seem to me to be very good. But yet I keep hearing that we've got this teacher shortage. So the question I got then is, if that's the case, how do we come up with the 96%? Is it filled, for example, with people that are temporarily employed? Are they really permanent positions that are being filled? Are we looking at the number properly? And is there a way to break down how you come up with the 96%? Because it just doesn't reconcile in my mind with what a teacher shortage is defined or how it should be described.
So first of all, I've actually had that same question from some of the legislators when they just look at the numbers. And my response is, yes, it is a teacher shortage. Because we need a qualified teacher in every classroom. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So when you look at the numbers, and I believe that you were out of the country for, I think I did 2 HR committee presentations that spoke to exactly what you're asking about. The most recent one was just in December, and I broke down the numbers. Part of it is we need every position filled. Part of it is ideally we would have every position filled with teachers who already have their teaching license. The key part of that is that they would have completed a state-approved teacher education program. Those who have not yet completed the SATEP are commonly referred to as emergency hires, and we are permitted to hire those teachers for up to 3 years. And if they don't complete the SATEP and get their license within 3 years, then they are terminated from employment, and that's statutory. So the December presentation, and I can make sure that you get a copy of that because it does have some graphics that I think are pretty clear, is we want to minimize the number of emergency hires, maximize the number of fully licensed SATEP completed on day 1 of the school year.
Well, I guess that gets to my point again, though. We've gone over the strategic plan. We look at the percentage, and we kept questioning, or at least I kept questioning, why is this number, this percentage being used, if in fact the percentage doesn't reflect, again, or it includes emergency hires and the like. So should there be a way to carve that out so that you get to a true percentage to understand what the gap really is? Because this doesn't tell me that the gap exists. It certainly won't tell the legislators that.
So when I have presented the indicator reports, the numbers, there's a further breakdown, and that is, it's broken down into, for all teachers, the total vacancies, but also breaking it down to SATEP, complete and not. And then separately, it's broken down into all special education teachers, SATEP completed does not. When the indicators, the new indicators are reported through the, posted on the website, it'll include a dashboard so that it can be further broken down so that it's broken down by type of teacher position, complex area, and all of those.
Okay, then what I would recommend is that we relook at how we calculate the percentage of positions filled, because this is a misleading number. Not to say that it's a malicious approach, I'm just saying it's got to be accurate. And we've got to demonstrate, if we do have the numbers that can carve out those teachers that are emergency hires and the like,
right,
let's carve them out and let's put the right percentage in.
Okay, so you're saying that you would like us to replace the indicator on the strategic plan from
replace
total?
the percentage baseline from that metric and recalibrate that metric so that the percentage is appropriate. So I'm fine with the metric. It's the percentage calculation that I struggle with.
So you want us to rephrase the target from, what, 93% SATEP complete to 95%?
Recalculate it so it's a more accurate perspective on what that shortage represents. But that's what I'm asking.
Any other questions? Cox.
I don't know where I got this, but I have status of teacher positions for school year 16-17, and it lists ones that don't have the SATEP for whatever, and secondary teacher, special ed, all of this. Has the vacancies, it has everything. Did we all get this?
I can't recall.
So
But if we do have it, then
right
the
here,
question...
then we should be able to do the percentage fairly easily, because it's all right there.
That's exactly what I'm trying to...
Yeah, this is what you're asking for.
Right, and
then add the
I question why we didn't do that when we
first place.
had the percent. The second question, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Maybe to Darrell's point, when we talk about the strategic plan and the things that you need to do or OHR needs to do, I am going to be asking in our general business meetings to have regular updates on your plans and how you're getting close to making progress on the targeted metrics with respect to your area. So just so you know, to give you a heads up, that's what I'm going to ask of you and Amy's group or Dan's group, whoever, I think it behooves us now to have regular reports so that we can make sure that we're making progress on the strategic plan.
Understood.
Okay, so I just want to comment that when we have 12,000 teachers, 12,600 teachers or so. So 4% of 12,600 teachers is 500 teachers. So the problem is that we're so used to 96% being A+, that we think that we're doing good. When in reality, the 4% is such a huge number that when you have 500 teachers who are not qualified teaching, that's the problem. Okay, so now, and we had this discussion at one of our Human Resources Committee meetings. The problem is even worse when we realize where these teachers are teaching. They're not teaching PE, and I'm not saying PE is not an important subject, but they're teaching special education, the most vulnerable students. So in our strategic plan, we stated that highly qualified teachers or effective teachers, I forget exactly the wording, should be placed with our most vulnerable students. Because the data that was given by Barbara at the last meeting pointed out that I think 200 teachers were teaching special education classes, and they had no SATAP. I think that's right around there.
134.
134? I thought it was 194, but in any event, that's the point, though, that we need to. And then every year there's vacancies that occur, so this is an ongoing problem. So I appreciate the presentation today, and I appreciate the chairman's comment that we need to really get regular updates on this matter. I do want to follow up what Mr. Min says about the idea of recruiting outside of the United States, and you know, I'm certain that you're probably right. There are some visa issues, but I would like to get maybe some follow-up on exactly what that is, because we export teachers throughout the world, teaching English in foreign countries. The State Department has a dedicated program of sending United States citizens to foreign countries to propagate the English language throughout the world. Now, I do know that a lot of our universities employ faculty members from a lot of different countries. My own daughter, when she went to my alma mater at UMass, she complained that she couldn't understand one word that the professor said. But that's a different story. I think she just is giving me an excuse. But in any event, the bottom line is we need to see if there's ways that we can get qualified special education teachers to at least help the problem that we're facing in our schools right now. Anybody have any other questions? Mr. Gala.
I just want to make a comment, maybe it's a question, but I appreciate everything that you shared, Barbara, in all of the efforts, looking at the mentoring, looking at what we're doing for recruiting on the mainland, or everything you shared. My concern is this, that we've been doing this. We've been doing all of these things for the last 20, 30 years. We've been going to the mainland for recruiting. We've been working on mentoring. We've been working on improving different things. And so my fear is that 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be having the same discussion. And so more, I guess, a request of how can we think creatively, innovatively, like what the Vice Chair just shared and what Board Member Moon said. We have to think completely, we have to not think in the box, out of the box. We have to, there's no box. We have to be thinking very differently about how can we address this problem so we can look forward in a few years or 5 years or whatever, and we won't have to keep coming back to this. So I guess more just a commentary, but I think this kind of innovative and creative thinking is what we have to kind of pursue.
Then the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session and discuss the quarterly update on DEL and LPI. We move to second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. We're in executive session. Please turn off your mics.